What's going on, everybody? This is Matt Does Fitness, and I apologise if I sound slightly flustered. I've just rushed back from a wedding. It was an electronic wedding. It was two TVs getting married. The actual ceremony itself was really boring, but the reception was incredible. Now, I've made this video to talk about the dangers of a cheat day or a cheat meal, and that whole kind of dieting and calorie counting principle. Now, in case you are unfamiliar, a cheat day or a cheat meal is essentially a period where you allow yourself to eat whatever you want. Okay, so generally speaking, it is where let's say a bodybuilder, he will restrict his calories for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. He'll say, I'm only going to have this amount of calories each day, and this amount of fats, and this amount of carbs, and this amount of sugar each day. And then he says, right, on this day, I'm going to eat whatever I want, okay? And invariably they will eat a ridiculous amount of food and a crazy amount of sugar and fat and carbs. They also might do like a cheat meal, so maybe once a week they'll say, for this 1 hour window or for this one meal, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And again, invariably they end up eating a large amount of fat, calories, sugar, carbs, etc. Now, before I get into the dangers, the risks of this in my opinion, let me quickly state this. For some people, this works perfectly, okay? If you are the kind of person who can do everything objectively, so they can say, right, this is what I want to eat, this is what I should be eating, that's what I'm going to eat. If you can look at it that way, if you can look at it scientifically and say, you know, this is what I need, this is what I'm going to eat. If you can do that, then I'm sure this approach will work really well for you in terms of, you know, dieting and throwing in the cheat meals or the cheat days. This will be a very effective way for you to lose weight, to lose fat, and to, you know, achieve the goals you want to achieve. However, for a large proportion of the population, and I would include myself in this proportion, this kind of whole calorie counting, cheat meal, cheat day, this whole principle is a very dangerous one. And I'll tell you why. Now, I personally, and a lot of people are the same, I find it hard to restrict the things I eat, okay? So if I want to eat something, I can try really hard to stop myself from doing it, and you know, for a short period of time I can do that, but eventually I'm probably going to end up eating it, okay? I know a lot of people are the same, and it is kind of human nature. It's hard to say most, I would say the majority of humans are programmed to, if they say to themselves, or if they are stopped for a ban from having a certain thing, if there is something they say, you know, I can't have this thing, if they are prevented from having a certain thing, that one thing becomes something they want more than anything else, okay? So, you know, if you, let's say you start a new year and your New Year's resolution is, I'm not going to eat any chocolate. Most people, again, not everyone, most people will find they want chocolate more than ever. If you can't have it, you want it more than ever, okay? And the reality is, when you can have it, you're not actually that fussed about it. It's just that kind of, that part of your brain that tells you, I've got to have it, because you can't have it. That is, again, it's human nature. So, getting to the cheat meals, the cheat days. Obviously, a cheat meal isn't as bad as a cheat day, because it's compressed into a shorter period of time. However, the same risks still apply. What I believe is that the whole calorie counting and then the crazy cheat day, cheat meal, that whole concept, whole principle, if you do that, you are asking to develop an eating disorder. It leads to binges and those kind of things. So let's say again, let's say you know for a week you restrict what you eat, and you go through that week and you eat less calories in each day than you would do normally, and you lose weight and you feel great, and then you say, right, I've earned this one cheat day, so I'm going to eat whatever I want. What happens is, you know, you haven't eaten any chocolate or any cakes or sweets for that week, so in that one day you think, well, I'm going to make up for it now and I'm going to eat loads, okay? And then the next day you wake up, you feel horrible, and you go back to your normal dieting, and over a period of time you'll find that you'll lose weight, okay? However, the problem is, over a long period of time, the more you do this, the more that cheat day or that cheat meal, it starts to get out of control. Because you know, your body knows instinctively that's the only window you have to eat these things you want. So, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. When I was competing as an athlete, for the last probably 6 months, I really restricted what I was eating. Okay, I wanted to get really light. So what I would do is, all week I'd eat really well. I'd look at it, you know, objectively. I'd say, this is what I should be eating, this is what I need to eat, and that is what I ate, and that was it. I found it very hard, and then I would get to Saturday and I would have a cheat day. I'd eat whatever I wanted, okay? And at the start of it, I ate quite a lot, but I didn't go crazy. You know, I'd eat a few cakes, I'd eat like, you know, like a pizza or whatever, but that was that. However, what I found was, as the weeks went by, my cheat day got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it got to the point where I was eating a stupid amount of calories. I reckon on my biggest cheat day, I've probably done 10,000 calories, which is obviously a preposterous amount of calories to consume in a day. You shouldn't be doing that. It doesn't matter how many calories, how much of a calorie deficit you've created in the week prior to that. You should not subject your body to that amount of calories in that short period of time. It's not a natural thing to do. And like I say, it leads to that kind of that binging habit. What you do is you think, oh my god, I've only got a 24-hour window, I need to go crazy. I've read of stories of people going to bed the day before a cheat day and waking up at like 4 in the morning just so they can go to the shop and start their cheat day earlier. That is ridiculous. That is an eating disorder. If you're doing that, that is an eating disorder in itself. And I think that whole concept is very, very dangerous. I would not recommend it unless, like I said, if you are the kind of person that has incredibly strong willpower or your mind just isn't geared that way. Some people, you know, they can have a bit of chocolate and they're happy, that's it. They're fine with that. They can eat in moderation, it isn't a problem. However, some people, it's kind of all or nothing, okay? So if you are that kind of person and you find it hard to control that side, you know, that kind of instinct, then I think this way of eating is very, very dangerous. Now, in order to say, you know, I think if you say something is dangerous or you shouldn't do this, I think you should offer an alternative, okay? An alternate solution. Now, my alternate solution is quite simply moderation. Now, I understand if you are a competitive bodybuilder, you need to obviously cut your body fat to a very, very low percentage, and therefore there is no alternative, alright? Unfortunately, if you are doing that, you're probably going to get into that, you know, that cycle of calorie counting and cheat meals and whatever. That's kind of unavoidable. However, like I said, you are taking a big, big risk, because I believe a lot of the time that is going to lead to some form of eating disorder. Whether it's a minor one or a major one, I don't know, but I do believe it's very, very risky. However, if you are not doing it so seriously, or you're just lifting weights, or maybe you're a power lifter, I've obviously got into the kind of the powerlifting route now, and what I found is eating in moderation is by far the way to go. So what I would do is, I've said this loads of times before, if I want to eat some chocolate, or, you know, I'm tired, I finished training, I want to eat some cake, or I don't know, a bit of pizza or whatever, I eat it. I don't think twice, I'll eat whatever I want, okay? However, what I found is, because I'm telling myself I can eat whatever I want and I don't rule anything out, in reality, what actually happens is that you're not too fussed when it comes to it. You know, if you say, I'm not going to eat any donuts for a month, for that month you're going to crave. By then you'll be craving donuts so much it will be unreal, okay? So what I'm doing is, I'm saying I can have as many donuts as I want, but when it comes to it, you don't actually want that many. You know, I eat 2 or 3 and then that's it. I don't feel like eating anymore. Because you're giving yourself the option of doing it, you know, when it comes to it, it isn't actually that exciting. The novelty wears off, and it's not something, you know, it's not this thing that you desperately want. It just becomes like anything else, and then you eat. And I'm finding I'm probably eating better and more consistently than I ever have before. And I feel, compared to when I was doing that really hard dieting, my body fat probably isn't that much higher. It is obviously slightly higher, but I know that I'm maintaining the same kind of level that I have been for a while. I'm a lot happier. I'm not, you know, I eat what I want. I don't even worry about food anymore. That's the other thing. When I was doing that kind of dieting, I'd say probably, you know, 3/4 of my day was spent thinking about food. I was constantly thinking about, what am I eating next, or I wish I could eat this. And again, it's not a good way to go. They are all the signs that you have an eating disorder, and I just don't think it is the way to go. So, in my opinion, unless you absolutely have to, or you're of that mindset whereby there's no risks involved, I would definitely not recommend the whole, you know, super like specific calorie counting and cheat meal, cheat day approach. I don't believe it is worth the risk, and I do believe there is a high chance you will develop an eating disorder as a result. And that is that. That's all I've got to say on it. Let me know what you thought about my opinions in the comment section. If you have any stories of your own that relate to this topic, or you have any thoughts on what I've said, put it in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.